This is Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States. Donald Trump has many supporters who love him with all of their hearts and would do anything that he says, but at the same time, he has many opponents who hate him with all of their hearts, and whatever he says, they will do the exact opposite of it. It's needless to say that Donald Trump is a very polarizing figure in American politics, and it seems like there's no middle ground when it comes to Donald Trump. And it also seems like the more right-leaning you are, or the more conservative you are, the more you love Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the more liberal you are, and the more left-leaning you are, the more you hate Donald Trump. Therefore, it would be almost synonymous to associate Donald Trump with conservatism and the Republican Party. However, there was a period in time, and I'm talking just like 15 years ago, where Donald Trump held very liberal viewpoints, even by the standards of today. I'm talking about supporting Medicare for all, which is something that many Democratic politicians right now are not willing to go forward with. He's also a supporter of abortion, and he was particularly very pro-choice. He also supported gay rights and LGBT rights, and he also supported many gun restrictions, including a ban on assault weapons and background checks when it comes to owning guns. Needless to say, Donald Trump held very liberal social views 15 years ago. He has also been a very strong supporter of government involvement in the economy, particularly through the use of tariffs and protectionism, which is a viewpoint he still holds today, and himself has rejected laissez-faire economics, and himself has stated that the Democratic Party has done a better job regarding economics than the Republican Party around the 2000s, and stated that that is why he is a Democrat. And that itself indicates that he has a strong support for Keynesian economics. Not to mention the fact that Donald Trump supported universal legalization of marijuana, and right now he believes it to be a state-by-state issue. So he also, in fact, this may come as the most surprising thing, which is he actually stated that many politicians need to follow what the scientific community is saying with regards to global warming and climate change, that the government needs to do something about the issue. This is clearly not the same Donald Trump today who is stating that, quote, global warming is a hoax that comes from China. So anyways, it actually seems like Donald Trump of the 2000s is more liberal than Joe Biden is right now. That's right, I just said it. Donald Trump, at a period of time, was more liberal than Joe Biden. Now, how did Donald Trump exactly do a 180 on most of these views and change them? And what are his actual views? I don't know, and that's not what this video is meant to question. So anyway, back to the topic of this video. The one issue which Donald Trump has always been conservative about has been crime. He has always stated that he has supported the death penalty and has even argued the case for public executions, waterboarding, and very severe punishments, to say the least, with regards to crime, although he has also supported criminal justice reform. And at the same time, when it comes to immigration, Donald Trump has also always been conservative regarding this issue, always supporting closed borders and the deportation of illegal immigrants. But still, if Donald Trump didn't stress this issue as much in the 2000s as he does now when it is his signature issue. So, what if Donald Trump became president of the United States as a Democrat? That's right, I just said that. Imagine Donald Trump as president, but with the Democratic Party. Now, for Donald Trump to become president as a Democrat, there needs to be one key change in history, which is Barack Obama does not run in 2008, and Hillary Clinton becomes the Democratic nominee for president without any challenge from Barack Obama, or she just beats him. Either way, Hillary Clinton has to become president in 2008. And I do believe that if Hillary Clinton won the Democratic nomination, she would have won the general election in 2008, given the fact that the political climate of 2008, essentially any Democrat who hadn't committed a serious felony would have beaten John McCain in that election, just given how bad the political environment was for Republicans. And you can see this as Democrats had swept the House of Representatives that year, and also in fact gained a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. So this whole notion that Hillary Clinton couldn't have won against John McCain, That's not true. Hillary Clinton definitely would have won the election against John McCain in 2008, given how bad the circumstances were for Republicans. So this is the electoral map I think that would have got Hillary Clinton elected in 2008. Now, there is one key change in this election, which is if Hillary Clinton is the nominee, I do believe that she will do a lot worse with black voters than Barack Obama would. And this would mean severe underperformances in many urban areas. And this would include Minneapolis, which in fact would reduce her margin of victory in Minnesota, which would prevent Al Franken from winning over Republican incumbent Senator Norm Coleman, and would therefore prevent the Democratic Party from gaining a 60-seat majority in the Senate. And I do believe that Hillary Clinton, as president, would be able to carry out the killing of Osama bin Laden. I mean, she was able to do that as a Secretary of State to Barack Obama, so I don't really doubt that she could pull that off as president. And when it comes to healthcare, Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill Clinton, in fact, when Clinton was president in 1992, they had much more ambitious plans for healthcare than Obamacare. However, it was just not politically feasible for the 1990s. This plan would not have been feasible either for the 2010s, just given how unpopular universal healthcare was with the majority of Americans, as well as the fact that many politicians, including Democratic politicians, would not have supported this stance, and it likely would have failed in the Senate, given the fact that the Democrats did not have a filibuster-proof majority, and there were many conservative Democrats who would have defected. Nevertheless, the idea of universal health care itself would create massive opposition from Republicans. However, I don't believe that the Tea Party would have been formed because of the fact that with a weaker majority in the Senate, Democrats would likely have to have passed a watered-down version of Obamacare that has not been as substantial as the current one. With a much more watered-down version of Obamacare, the Tea Party movement would not have come to rise, and as a whole, the Republican Party would not be as conservative as it is today, and would become much more of a more pragmatic party when it comes to who's governing. So yeah, Obamacare would definitely be much more moderate in this scenario, and instead of Obamacare, it would be Hillary Clare or Clinton Care. Either way, it would be much more watered down and moderate today than it actually was in our scenario. And another key impact of Obama's presidency that likely won him re-election in 2012 against Mitt Romney was the government shutdown. Now, the government shutdown was largely caused by the Tea Party faction of the Republican Party, and the government shutdown as a whole led to many Republicans looking bad, and this was due to the red wave of the 2010 elections. Now, with a much more watered down version of Obamacare, I still think Republicans would take back the House of Representatives in 2010, but they would have a much more narrow majority, and as a whole, there wouldn't be as many Tea Party conservatives. So, the government shutdown would never happen, and Republicans wouldn't look as bad as they do. And this would allow Mitt Romney to actually do a much better job in the 2012 election. And this is because Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, I do believe would weigh a primary challenge against Hillary Clinton, the incumbent president. And the reason why I think this is because Bernie Sanders was actually seriously considering primarying Barack Obama in 2012. However, Harry Reid convinced him not to run. But without Obamacare passing and it being significantly watered down, and Bernie Sanders being upset about Hillary Clinton not pursuing universal health care, as well as the fact that I just don't think Bernie Sanders ever really liked Hillary Clinton, and he actually ran against her in 2016 and wasn't willing to give her a coronation then, I don't think he was gonna just let her win in 2012 either. I think Bernie Sanders would have definitely run against Hillary Clinton in 2012. And with a divisive primary, I don't think Hillary Clinton would have actually won the 2012 presidential election. And in this alternate scenario, let's assume Mitt Romney runs a much better campaign. Because in all honesty, the 2012 election was a very winnable election for the Republican Party. However, Mitt Romney just did not run the best campaign. He wasn't able to exactly energize the conservative wing of the party, but at the same time, he couldn't get moderates to vote for him either. So I think in this scenario, Hillary Clinton likely does a lot worse with black voters than Barack Obama, and at the same time with progressives as well, just given how Bernie Sanders goes against her in the primary with the divided Democratic Party, I think Mitt Romney will win the 2012 election and will defeat Hillary Clinton. Now, one of the top priorities for Republicans would be to get rid of Hillary care, despite how insignificant it is in this scenario. And at the same time, I don't think this would pass because the Republicans would have a narrow House majority and Democrats would have a Senate majority. So this wouldn't happen, and Mitt Romney would actually get very little done. So in the 2016 presidential election, I think the Democratic candidates would be Tim Kaine of Virginia, Barack Obama, as well as Donald Trump. That's right. Here's where it comes. So when Mitt Romney's president, Donald Trump is going to come out in the Democratic primary, run against the Democrats, and he's going to go with his whole stance. He's going to be for universal health care. He's going to be very supportive of protective tariffs, and as a whole, this would gain him a lot of votes in the Midwest. And Donald Trump's whole campaign would be focusing on healthcare, tariffs, as well as non-interventionism and getting out of the Middle East, which would make many Democrat peace advocates support him. So as a whole, Donald Trump would actually be running to the left of Barack Obama and Tim Kaine, as well as probably Bernie Sanders, who's going to be in this race as well. So he actually probably would be running around the same level as Bernie Sanders. But with the establishment base being split, as well as the grassroots being split, I think Donald Trump would actually be able to win the Democratic primary. And he would be running a very similar campaign as Bernie Sanders. But let's say in this scenario, he's a lot more successful than Sanders. And he's able to come out by winning many Midwestern and Southern states and ultimately gets the nomination by winning these red states. So at the end of the day, with Donald Trump as the nominee, I think he would start off by winning big in Iowa. That would be the first race. He'd do very well with the voters there. And I think another campaign promise that Donald Trump would have when he's running is to ban all corporate PAC money. And he would be actually running severely on the issue of campaign finance. He would say that all politicians are bought. He would use that whole populist messaging. So I think in the 2016 election, if Trump was a Democrat, he would be running primarily as a populist, especially. And I think for Trump's running mate, he would select Sherrod Brown just to hammer on the whole Midwestern idea and to have another populist at the ticket. Or maybe he may pick someone more establishmentarian like he did with Mike Pence. I don't know who Trump's running mate is going to be, but it won't really affect the election that much and most likely would probably help him. And I think Mitt Romney would have a tough time, especially in 2016, given how little his administration had done for those 4 years, as well as the fact that just in general, Trump's whole campaign would be touring all over the country. He'd probably be campaigning in the Great Plains as well as many southern states like Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, the whole deal. And the Midwest would be a key area where Romney would struggle. And as a whole, I think another selection that Trump's running mate could have been would be Evan Bayh, a moderate from Indiana. He could actually be a better selection than Sherrod Brown. He'd probably moderate Trump's image as a whole, and it would actually help him a lot in the Midwest. So I think Evan Bayh would actually be a much better pick than Sherrod Brown for VP for Trump. And I think Trump would probably go with Bayh. And I think the Midwest would be the main area where Trump would campaign. He would campaign in Missouri and West Virginia, as well as Indiana a lot. And this would be the final electoral map, I think, if it was Romney versus Trump. And ironically enough, the electoral count in this map is 306 to 232. Trump would win many states right now, which are deep red, which are Kentucky, West Virginia, Missouri, Arkansas. So Trump would basically be redefining the political map, which is what he did in 2016 as well. So when Trump is president, he would likely pass Trump Care, which would basically be pretty much the same thing as Obamacare as a Democrat, except probably actually with even more government involvement in it. I don't think he would have the votes for a single payer system, but it would still be a pretty big deal. And I think the Democrats would have a trifecta if Trump was elected president in 2016. He also may try to pass a universal legalization of marijuana, in 2000 if he becomes president as a Democrat. Though I don't know if he ends up doing this or not. Abortion also, he probably downplays this issue a lot when he campaigns in 2016 because of how key southern states are to his victory if he wanted to win the election. And same thing with climate change, I believe. And the Trump administration would probably be very tumultuous, exactly like it is in our own timeline, except it would have Democrats in it rather than Republicans. It would still be like a mess like it is right now, and you would have people constantly getting fired, and then like their replacements also getting fired. So yeah, and then but the key difference is if Donald Trump is a Democrat, he doesn't necessarily have a core base that loves him or a core base that hates him. So really many people would kind of have like mixed feelings about Donald Trump. Like many like hardcore liberal voters would sort of be like, yeah, he like kind of is like populist, but at the same time they wouldn't really like him either because of like kind of like the whole like it's hard to explain, but Trump like wouldn't be that popular among like liberal activists, and many conservative activists may actually like his populist viewpoints, especially paleoconservatives, but at the same time they wouldn't really like his standpoints on social issues. So like he doesn't really have a base that loves him or a base that hates him either. And then when the coronavirus comes in 2019, and then like the pandemic occurs also, I don't think Trump is gonna be coming out by like saying like it's a hoax or anything. I mean, even though he still did kind of do something about it in our own scenario, he's probably gonna do something about it now also. But I don't think his response would be that effective as a Democrat either. And I still think he would probably get some beef with the scientific community regarding this. And at the same time, I think Trump would also, if he's probably going to lose in 2020 if he's a Democrat also, and I still believe he denies the elections if he loses in 2020. That's not going to change in either scenario if Trump's a Republican or a Democrat. However, I don't think there's going to be a whole insurrection because again, if he's a Democrat, he doesn't have that core base that's going to follow whatever he wants. So no January 6th insurrection, but Trump still denies the results, but there's nothing he can really do about it. So yeah. And as a whole, if Donald Trump ran for president as a Democrat instead and he won the election, the key difference would be actually that the whole political polarization in the United States right now would actually be a lot less if he was a Democrat than a Republican. When Trump was a Republican, political polarization like vastly increased. He shifted the Overton window to both the right and the left for Democrats and Republicans both, and like political polarization increased massively under Trump as a Republican. But if Trump was a Democrat instead, he wouldn't really do a whole lot to shift political polarization, given like how like non-extreme his stance would be, or his stance would be like so extreme on both the right and left that they would just cancel out. I know that's sounding kind of weird, but still, if Trump was president as a Democrat, I think there would actually be a lot less political polarization than there is now as an effect of Trump becoming president as a Republican. So that's the main impact of Trump becoming a president as a Democrat, which is less political polarization. So anyway, that's what I think is going to happen if Trump ran for president as a Democrat. This is probably my most controversial video yet. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel.